First item on the agenda this evening is the adoption of the agenda. And I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but I would like to make the motion for the adoption of the agenda. Chairing the meeting, I'm concerned about the Harmony Manor additional bedroom review on the schedule tonight, and I'd like to make a motion that we strike that from the agenda before we adopt the agenda. I'd be happy to take a second for purposes of discussion.
Second.
I'm not sure what the thought process was in placing this item on the agenda, but the application is clearly dated that it was received on the 7th, and our zoning ordinance clearly states that all applications must be received 16 days before they are put on the agenda. And so I do not think that we can review this item this evening. Is there any thoughts on that?
I have read it two different ways, and one way was when an application was filed, it was forwarded expeditiously to the Planning Commission for review. I read the 16 days more for public hearing, so I would just like to hear the zoning administrator's opinion. I read it in two different places, so I see both sides of the fence.
I would agree with that.
Well, it says the application for a special permit or special exception shall be filed not later than 16 days prior to the next regular monthly planning commission meeting at which it shall be placed on the agenda. At that meeting, the commission will review the general content of the proposal, which will be what we're doing tonight, and request any specific additional information to be provided by the applicant or staff. So, I mean, to me, that applies to what we're doing tonight and not the public hearing. I would certainly agree, and I did read the expeditious part as well. However, that seemed to apply in circumstances where it was submitted more than 16 days before the meeting date.
Is this something that we have held to in the past or not?
I've only sat on this body for 6 months, so I'm not sure if that's been the rule of thumb, but that's what's in the zoning ordinance.
I think Mr. Byrd missed the motion, if you would like to.
Would you mind repeating it, Mr. Silver?
The motion was to strike Harmony Manor from the agenda since it was not submitted 16 days prior to the date of this agenda. It was submitted on the 7th of this month.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Burke?
It would seem that inasmuch as we are only making a recommendation, that is this a critical aspect?
I had just read the pertinent part of the ordinance, which says the application for a special permit or special exception shall be filed not later than 16 days prior to the next regular monthly planning commission meeting, at which it will be placed on the agenda. At that meeting, the commission will review the general content of the proposal and request any specific additional information to be provided by the applicant or staff. Which is what I believe we're doing this evening. And that's why I've requested it be struck from the agenda.
So I guess there's no other discussion, but we have a vote now.
Okay. If everybody feels that's enough discussion, I'll go ahead and take the vote. Mr. Byrd, are all in favor? Excuse me. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
So I think that's 4. One abstention. All right, the next item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any notes or changes for those minutes?
I do have several changes for the 15th. I don't know if you probably want to go over each one of them. I can go over the big ticket items, or I can just share my changes with staff. The first one was, it says that Sherry was here and I was not, and that's not correct. And the majority of the others are just wording. The Ag and Forest, it says that we approved it and we recommended approval.
Okay.
They're really just approving it.
Mine was, it was labeled as the scoop of work when it came to the,
I didn't get that.
it
I
was
didn't
the
get that
scoop
one.
of work. When it came to the discussion of the ordinance changes toward the end of the minutes. That was the only change I had. Are there any other changes to the May 15th or May 31st minutes?
No, only in the last page, just a superfluous word under the capitality, and just the last sentence says, next month agenda 2 for discussion, just strike 2.
Very good. If there's no other changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're approving also the work minutes?
We can, or we can approve them separately, whatever you like.
On the work session minutes, just in that third paragraph in the text, I stated that I felt the lines between zoning and future land use, that they were blurred, and perhaps there was a need for a basic land use map, and I'd like that to be added. I can share mine. So I move the approval with the changes.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Moving on to the public comment period. The public comment period is open. Please state your name and the district that you're from, and please direct your comments to the commission. The microphone is available.
Mike Bennett, Piedmont. I don't see my application on the agenda for today. I thought I had everything in place. I was for a preview last month. I'm a little bit surprised I'm not on the agenda.
Ms. Summers, would you care to address that?
Yes, after reviewing everything that was submitted, the VDOT approval was still left to be submitted.
Okay. They haven't responded?
No, sir.
Because that was a little bit confusing, because that was a preliminary was initially stated that you didn't need VDOT. Then a week later, you emailed that said you didn't need VDOT, so I had requested VDOT, then canceled it, and then had to request a new one. I feel a little bit confused by the whole process. Not much clarity, not much communication, to know what's going on. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, it's Sheila Gressinger, Hampton District. I wrote my stuff down because I didn't want to forget anything. I do read RapNet, and on RapNet today, Eric Tollison wrote an interesting commentary on the benefits of small businesses in Rappahannock County, among them increasing the tax base and adding local jobs. My thought is that it's similar to a pebble tossed into a pond, and you notice all the ripples that spread out. So that one action actually affects a whole lot in our county, and it stresses the importance of small businesses. This leads into my thought on the comprehensive plan with its emphasis on both agriculture and tourism, which are very important. My hope is that Rappahannock County will be seen as a welcoming place, welcoming and encouraging rather than the gotcha attitude that seems to have crept in sometimes. As an example, years ago, I had a contractor that I had a specific project, and after we had discussed everything that needed to be done, all the different permitting and everything, I asked him for the contract, and he said, a handshake will be fine. This is so interesting. A handshake. Years ago, that was fine. However, now with property changes and such, matters can become a he said, she said, which makes resolutions a bit more difficult. Our comprehensive plan calls for adaptations to be used as needed, which can address changes that come and traditions that are no longer seem sufficient. So I think that's a very important thought that we need to take to heart. In closing, I'd like to comment on Michelle Summers, who is methodically and in a business-like way taking care of matters submitted to her, and I think that's a very welcoming thing, and I thank you for it.
Anyone else? And with that, I declare the public comment period closed. As we have no public hearing scheduled tonight, that takes us to new business. Item 1, the preliminary review of the Chapman special use permit.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman has applied for a special use permit for a family apartment located at 3727 Sperryville Pike, tax map number 38A, 001, lot 28. The property is zoned village residential. Mr. Chapman obtained a special use permit, permit number 160403 for his family apartment on May 25th of 2016, but the project was never started. Pursuant to the Rappahannock County Code 170-60, that no work or building permits were issued within the 1-year time frame after the special use permit was issued, Mr. Chapman had to reapply for another special use permit. The proposal is still exactly the same. There's an existing barn on the property located 13 feet behind the main house. Mr. Chapman proposes to remodel the barn into 2 spaces. One is a workshop and the other part is a family apartment containing 1,083 square feet. The health department has no objections to this request since it's on public sewer and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman, do you have anything to add?
Only that I think Mr. Henry, he might be the only person that was here at that time. It happened 3 years ago under Mr. Settle's chairmanship that I think the board unanimously approved my application. As Mrs. Summers said, the application has not changed at all. I did pause work on the barn to open a business in Sperryville, Happy Camper. And so now I'm focusing my energy back on the barn to turn it back into a usable space and apartment. So I hope you consider my application and see that it hasn't changed and take into account that it was approved last time.
Thank you. Well, normally we would turn the meeting over to the representative of Piedmont District to lead the discussion. However, as that seat is currently vacant, is there anyone that would like to lead this discussion? I'll be glad to do it.
I'll just say that there's a handsome barn. I've been in this barn many years ago before you owned it. It's a nice historic structure, and I presume that the size qualifies under the family apartment.
Yes, sir, it does.
And I think it's a good use for the property.
Mr. Burke, did you have any thoughts?
Only it seems that if the project hasn't changed, it was approved once, and it seems to be adding the ability to live in a village as opposed to elsewhere, there doesn't seem any reason not to approve it to me.
Ms. Mead?
I missed it. Have you identified what family member it is for?
Yes, for my mother, potentially, she could move in. It's not clear when she would move to Sperryville. She's currently in Texas. My stepfather's still around, so they're
Just didn't know if I missed it or
have
not.
life there. Yep, so I'm setting it up so that down the line she could potentially live in Sperryville.
Mr. Henry, did you have any thoughts?
No questions.
I didn't have any questions either. I thought this was a very complete application and it's already been vetted by this body once. And so it would be my inclination to suggest that we just go ahead and send it up to the BZA for a public hearing as we can. If we don't deem it necessary to hold a public hearing, we can just go ahead and refer this to them.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion and that would be my preference.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that takes us to the Hallberg application. And at this point, I will recuse myself from the meeting due to family member's business relationship with Mr. Hallberg. And I'll turn the meeting over to Michelle. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hallberg has applied for a special use permit for a Category 1 farm winery located at 9 Josh Ben Lane. A special exception was granted to the property, permit number 180601, for establishing use for a Dulcimer Museum on August 14, 2018. Mr. Hallberg wishes this application to coexist with his special exception permit already granted. The health department commented they have no objections to the proposed as long as the necessary applications complies with their office. The septic is on Sperryville, and therefore there's no on-site septic. The well has been referred to the Office of Drinking Water, and Mr. Hallberg, the applicant, is not present tonight. He was notified of the meeting. So I'll open this up for discussion.
How big is this site? 5 acres?
Over 5 acres.
And I guess this is actually a cidery.
A cidery, that's correct.
I guess those words are interchangeable between cidery and a wine.
Correct.
So, I guess the question is, does he have 3 to 5 acres of producing apple trees?
He has indicated that he has planted 125 trees. And without him present to explain more, that's all the information that I have.
That wasn't clear in any of the application materials because I had the same question of how he could meet the definition and produce 51% of the fruit. And it would be nice to hear back from the Office of Drinking Water as well.
And I guess the way this is written, you can waive, as a zoning administrator, the requirement of 51% due to drought, natural disease, or natural disaster, beyond the control of the owner. But until the trees are producing, and you actually run a winery, you planted apple trees this past year, it'll be a couple of years before it has any fruit, and the production then will just be very nominal. So I think, maybe he has this cart way out in front of the horse.
I think it would be beneficial to hear from Mr. Hallberg himself.
I agree. Is the site, I wasn't quite clear, is the site going to be at another property and then he's going to have
But Elmer's
some made at this one
Yes,
and then serve tastings here?
correct.
And does he own the cider?
I believe he just leases it. Typically what I've witnessed in the past is that the applicant is, typically the planning commission has taken these applications for more information from the applicant themselves.
Yeah, I think we need to table this since he's not here, and this question of growing the product to press it.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I second.
Okay.
Want to say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to the review of new business, preliminary review of special use permit for the, excuse me, Bowles Fire Department. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Oh, very good. So, Ms. Summers, if you would give the floor, please.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Joseph and Ian Bowles have applied for a family apartment located at 522 Castle Mountain Road in Castleton, tax map number 4144. The property is 34 acres in size. The proposed family apartment is for Mrs. Bowles' mother. It is proposed that the family apartment will be located between 60 and 100 feet from the main dwelling, complying with the Rappahannock County Code. The size of the proposed family apartment is between 800 and 1,000 square feet. They have two plans they are considering. They have not finalized, which is understandable, what blueprint used. VDOT has no issues with the existing entrance being used for the proposed. The health department indicated they had no objections to the idea of a guest home. However, the applicants would need to obtain the necessary permits to either modify their current septic system or install a separate system to serve the proposed structure.
And this is in Stonewall Hawthorne District? Yes. it
Yes.
seems to be.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. And the applicants are present. Did you have anything to add to the description?
No, just that it will be, it is for my mother, who my father passed away on April 1st, and she's living alone in North Carolina. And so she needs to come closer to me, or my sister, who's in California, so I'm with veterans. And we will try and make it a pretty little cottage for her, and mirroring our house, you know, to look like a conducive to the environment. I know there's no architectural review board involved here, but I just thought I would mention that.
Very good, thank you very much. Does anybody have any particular thoughts on this application that they would like for discussion on it?
Maybe I missed it. How many bedrooms are in the house now?
In my house, the main house, there's 3 bedrooms upstairs, 1 downstairs, but Medj Carter indicated that we could borrow from the main house to use for this house. So that is our intention, to try to make that work.
So a bedroom would become a den or of some kind.
That's the use of it is now, anyway. So it's the first floor. So it has a closet. I guess we would have to close up the closet or something to make it officially not a bedroom.
Any questions, Mr. Bird?
No, I would say, it seems to me that enabling people to age at home with family is a very desirable thing and ought to be encouraged.
Ms. Mead?
I have no comment.
Mr. Henry?
Okay, problem.
I would just echo your thoughts, Mr. Bird. I think that's the whole purpose of the family apartment. It's nice to see such a well thought together approach presented. Is there a motion that anyone would care to make?
I would move to recommend approval.
Very good, so we'll send it up to BZA with a recommendation of approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. And that takes us to old business, the Capielli and Long contract review application. Ms. Summers, did you have anything to add?
Yes.
this evening?
The commission reviewed this application at their March 20th, 2019 regular meeting and requested a commercial site plan by an engineer. The commission brought this application up again at their May 15th meeting. The commission directed the zoning administrator myself to reach out to the applicant to have this item placed back on the agenda. The applicant, through an email, proposes operation hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. There should be no more than one vehicle weighing over 35,000 gross per week. There should be no more than 5 employees. There should be no customer traffic, and that all equipment is either owned by them or owned by entities, other owned entities, and would be on site either between jobs or for repair. They submitted, and I have hard copies, but I do have them all loaded up on Board Docs. They submitted building permit, kitchen drawings, the shop front elevation, the shop plan review, grading plans for shop and building, contractor's yard, farm building permit, farm building plans, Howard Jordan Family Land Trust, land disturbance permit documents, land disturbance drawings approved, permit drawings, renewal, plot, plan, revised, 14, new survey, and VDOT's right away of 211. And the applicant is present.
Mr. Capielli, do you have anything to add?
Oh, yes. I actually tried to submit last month for last month's meeting. I was told, I guess there was another confusion about how many days before the meeting I was allowed to submit. I submitted on day 7, and I was told it's actually 10 days before the meeting, which I complied with again for this meeting. That's why we're here today. One of the things that I was asked to do was to get a survey and get an engineer involved, which we did. And it turned out to be, I owe you guys a thank you. One of the bigger things was about my driveway. I did my driveway moved, and then we got to approve my driveway, a new driveway. Well, it turns out, after we had 2 surveys done, that the property line, apparently for the last, since 1966, was wrong. And we actually own 40 feet into the neighbor's into the neighbor's lawn, and then such, the existing driveway that comes out of the property does not belong to the neighbor, but in fact belongs to me. So I don't have to get another VDOT permit on the 211. VDOT has informed me that you can't put your driveway in front of somebody else's property. So now we're going to get a permit instead of an opening. We're working on a permit for an improvement. We've had the outline, you asked about fencing, specifically you, Mr. Henry, that as long as there was you wanted to see lines to identify what would be the contractor's yard versus the rest of the property. So that if anything was outside of that area, that it would be a violation, which we had no problem. First, we identified that in our site plan that was approved by the engineer for water runoff and things like that. That's how we got our land disturbance permit from the Culpeper Engineering. It comes out to a total of 3.7658 acres. And there was also a discussion or a question as to how much land did we need? Well, that's definitive as to what we need. I know it's kind of hard to look and see it on that monitor, which is why I bought them in person.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you have a letter of recommendation from VDOT for approval for this, or do you have any sort of opinion from VDOT on approval?
I don't, according to VDOT, I already have a driveway. Because the driveway that was placed there, and this is the plan that VDOT gave to me, which is in your documents. VDOT provided this to me from 1966. when they actually placed the road there, the driveway there. And they tell me that they placed it in what was requested at that time. See, at that time, Mr. Jordan, the previous owner, owned my lot and the lot next door. There is a pre-existing 211 that runs here, and they never gave that 211 back to the owners. They kept it to this day.
I think in the interest of time, maybe I'd ask you to keep your comments to items that are pertinent to the application.
Well, this is pertinent to the application is my commercial entrance and exit. The commission had asked me to check into that with VDOT, which I did.
It appears to me VDOT still has outstanding comments in their letter dated January 29th. So if you have anything that they've since changed their position, that would be helpful before we would go to public hearing.
I have a letter from VDOT, from the engineer, dated yesterday, that he has not completed his review yet. He's waiting for the legal department, but they feel that it's going to be accepted, the entrance there. I just need to improve it.
Yeah, the entrance is probably granted for a residence, and now, you know, according to these, it's for a different use.
Right, and that's why I need to have an improvement instead of using it as it is. But there was a two-part thing. The first part was having an entrance period, and then it being taken from what it was. Because the way that it looked when you walked up to it, when Mr. Norris came out and did a field visit, you looked down the property, what we thought was the property line, there's a fence line there, and the fence line comes close to where the existing driveway is.
So you likely want to take this information back to Randy at VDOT and see if he would issue new comments.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now. That's why they provided this to me, which is in your file. This is what the final would look like. And this was done, I also have stamped copies of this from the surveyor. You have to look pretty close to it. You can see where all the fencing has been marked out. And it's on the legend as to where that would be. And it also calls out all the drainage controls. We've had inspections by the county every 2 weeks for the last 3 months. I think it was since this was issued. And we haven't had any problems.
What fencing is it? Is that for drainage?
No. To delineate what is the contractor's yard versus the rest of the property. There is some existing fence, and then where we would put the new fences along the sides of the roadway, along with all the new elevations around here that have been signed off and certified. We gave hard copies. I gave 2 hard copies to the office.
Okay.
Who did this drawing?
This particular one in my hand is a combination of drawings that's done between us, the surveyor, and the engineer.
How come nobody put the name on it?
I have the name on the other ones. This happened to be the one that I just picked up. I had submitted the ones with their stamps and signatures and dates on all of them.
So Dan Clark did your enumeration here.
Yes.
And Dan did this work?
No, I have his work separate. Because otherwise, as you're looking at it, this gets a little busy.
Well, so you had 2 different engineers here, one doing survey work? and one-
I actually had 2 surveyors and an engineer, because I wanted to be very clear as to the ownership of that new revelation of the property. The first surveyor that came out told me that it was just an offset, and it didn't, I said, okay, it's just an offset. I understand offsets, and moved on. When Dan Clark's guys came out, they said, it's not an offset, it's the iron pin. It's on your original map. And we're starting off from the concrete state monument, which was 250 feet away. And when I brought it up to my neighbor, the owner, he was like, yeah, I think my dad wasn't really clear when he split the property up years and years ago.
So, who all have looked at the plan in hand?
All of those people.
A letter from everyone?
Yes. Not only letters, but permits have been issued. Here's the water runoff design. It's been stamped and approved by the Rappahannock Building Department. The letters that are here accompanying it, saying that it has been reviewed, along with the proposed buildings and all of that. Rich McConnell, the head of the building department here, has approved it. And the last one that is in line is from the engineer from the Culpeper Water District, for all the water runoff and erosion controls and everything else, along with a list of how they're supposed to be maintained during and after construction, and pictures of how they should be.
I'm still amazed that all this has been done and there's no engineer claiming credit for all of this work.
This was done with the engineer.
But he didn't put a stamp or anything on it.
He's got it in here, in the letter that goes with it.
He does, or is this a letter from the county? I see a letter from the county.
Well, like I said, the last one. Right there.
Who was the engineer?
Mr. Jacobs.
And he's out of Culpeper, or where's he from?
Yeah.
He's a PE?
But he reviewed the plan, he didn't design the plan.
He reviewed the plan and designed the plan with me, in person, in his office,
For erosion and sediment control.
with the proposed buildings on it, and all the other permitted buildings that are already permitted on it.
Why is this configuration of this 3.76 acres so odd?
It's odd because we were using the, I'd have to have the print, but we were using the landscaping that's already there, the grades that are already there in a lot of places, the trees that are there in order to screen everything. And it worked out. So that way, even in the wintertime, it's not visible from any place. Then we didn't have to clear cut anything.
So Michelle, what's before us today, the decision is whether to hold a public hearing at a future date?
I think what's before us tonight is to review what he's submitted, and decide whether that information is sufficient or not. Again, in reviewing all the documents that were received by my office, there was not a commercial site plan with stamped by an engineer on the plan or surveyor. Not one, encompassed in one document,
So we're missing
one plat.
that, and we're missing VDOT comments on the latest.
That is correct. I have not received any latest, any other comments from VDOT.
And then I'm still confused as to a lot of the things you typically find out in these kind of applications. What is the contracting business? Is it one or is it three, which has been confusing?
In fact, here is the stamped, signed documents. I also turned in smaller file sizes.
They have the survey.
Right. And outlining the contractor's yard and all the rest of that. During the time that I handed these in, Ms. Summers reviewed them with me page by page and told me that this was sufficient. The information was what was asked for, and thanked me for bringing it all in. And then I mentioned to her, then she asked me if I could forward her digital copies of this. And I said I would do that, and I would also send her digitally the hours of operation and what our plans were, and she told me I had like 2 hours to do it because it was going to be the end of the day. And we sent them to her in about 45 minutes.
I would like to clarify, when they were submitted, I did not review them. I reviewed, he flipped through what the pages were. I did not say that it was what the commission requested. I'd like to clarify that for the record.
And then I do agree with Ms. Mead that I don't really see within the documents we have expounding on the things that we discussed in the prior meeting in March, which is like anything that we can mitigate for environmental impact, hours of operation, which businesses will be operating out of the space, all of the things you would expect to see in a
Pieces of equipment, I think, is really important.
Right, I think we had discussed inventory of pieces of equipment. I think all those things were discussed in March.
Not to interrupt you, no, there was no inventory of pieces of equipment. You asked about contamination.
I think Mr. Henry actually mentioned about pieces of, almost positive, but I'm not here to argue.
Right, no, I've been over that.
Yes, Ms. Summers?
Thank you. Within the Rappahannock County zoning ordinance 170-123, we have a section on the preparation and submission procedure for site plans. Under the use table in 170-36, under contractors, yards, office, shops, it is required to have a site plan. Within the ordinance in 123, B specifically states the site plan or any portion thereof involving engineering, architecture, city planning, urban design, landscaping, architecture, or land surveying shall be prepared by persons qualified to do such work. Final site plan shall be certified by an architect, engineer, or land surveyor within the limits of their respective licenses, authorizing them to practice in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We also have a specific list under G of that same section 170-123. Specific items shall be shown on site development plans. And there's a list of 1 to 23 of what the code requires.
And as it says, that is for the final site plan, which would not be in this box. Unfortunately, it would be in the next, at the next level, because that's where they issue a final site plan when they get the building permit. Be a final site. As your coach just pointed out.
Do you have anything else to add, Ms. Capiano?
I have a question. You had drawings in here for a bathroom.
For what?
Bathroom, you was talking about kitchen. I was thinking of disposal or wastewater. So is that going to require a drain field out in this area?
No, that is the other work that is already going on the property.
In a different structure?
Yes, in the house.
That's in the main house? Okay. I was a little bit confused that that was in this, so I thought that was going in.
Well, you had asked for a site plan, and in that site plan, it also shows all the other permits that are currently being worked on. With the soil erosion permit right now that we have, the building permit for the agricultural building, I can literally build this entire thing without any more permitting than that. What the issue is about the contractor's yard permit. See, the grading's been approved, the road's been approved, the building's been approved, and been permitted already. They're in here. So the issue that's before you isn't about the buildings. And the third building is a proposal. I have an idea of what I'd like to build at some time in the future. I'm building next month, I'm not going to get a permit tomorrow.
The issue before us is the use, so that's what we're.
Exactly. So that's why the questioning about the engineering is surprising, because it's already been approved and permitted. It would not be any different whatsoever. And I don't need any engineering for a fence.
It's not permitted until we approve it.
Well, the contractor's yard, absolutely. But I'm saying for a fence, there's no engineering involved in putting up a fence.
But we haven't specified the fence yet.
Okay.
Our fence may be different than your fence.
I'm sorry?
Our fence may be different than your fence. Our landscape may be different than your landscape.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why the ordinance says you don't do a final plan and get an engineer to approve it until you're done making your input as to changes for landscaping, or maybe a fence, or anything like that.
Well, it sounds like we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Okay?
Mr. Burr, did you have anything to add?
No, I don't.
Mr. Kohler?
No, it's fine, we'll do.
Ms. Mead? Mr. Henry? You look very
It
comfortable.
just seems like there's a lot of puzzle parts here that make a picture, and just, I'm not sure if everything's meshing together here for a complete picture here on what is going on here. And I guess also the question is you have this application here, and it may be mundane to the subject, it may not be, but where Ms. Summers, does the county litigation stand with this? Is this something that's drawn too close to being heard by the circuit court?
County litigation, we're scheduled to be before the judge, I believe, next month. Is that correct, Mr. Goff?
Right, in the district court, there are some pending warrants for violations, one of which, as I understand it, is operating a contractor charge without having proper permit, among other things having to do with inoperable vehicles and trash piles.
Yes.
To the extent that we're going to go forward with those cases, I guess it's going to depend on a subsequent site inspection before we go back to court.
Yes,
To
sir.
see if those conditions have been remediated. Obviously, the one involving the contractor's yard can't be remediated yet until the process is finished, so I would expect that case would probably, the judge may not want to take it on until this is over with. I don't know. So, but as what's discussed with Michelle today, the final site plan is going to have to be stamped by an engineer. And that's something that I understood we don't have yet. That's what had been requested, and I understand Mr. Capielli's point to be that actually, he doesn't want to go out and do that until he knows the size of the fence, the landscaping design that this commission is going to recommend to the board. Obviously, he's not going to go through that until he knows from the board, from the commission, what the commission believes to be appropriate in this application. But it appears he has employed these folks. It's just that we don't have, obviously, a final, because I believe he's waiting for, as I understand, input from the commission. So, but until you have a stamped final copy, I think it'd be premature to make a recommendation.
Did you have any other thoughts on it, Al?
I guess I'm used to seeing stamped preliminary drawings, and then if changes are made, then of course that goes into the final that has a stamp on it. And if it was a perfect plan, the preliminary could be the final. And, but of course, I guess we're not going to set the deal, and I don't expect that. But I expect, I think coming in, if you got a stamp on it, at least you know that everything you're looking at has been compiled and put together as a complete picture for the project with a stamp on it. And then you just tweak it to whatever level you need to tweak it to the standards of the community and the code. So, is that right, Holly?
I am in agreement, yeah.
You do this every day.
Well, we heard from the county attorney,
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to speak.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I mean, normally, when you get to this stage, you'd have that composite, all the disciplines in one document. And I guess it sounds like he's saying he's working towards that. I suppose. I won't speak for him. I just garnered from what he just said.
I would agree with Mr. Henry. I felt like initially when this was brought to us in March, we had a deficit of information, and now I feel like we're drowning in information, but still don't have exactly the details that we need to move this forward. And I do think we have the problem that I mentioned last month at the meeting, which is that there is a time limit on these applications. And I think for this application, for all intents and purposes, that time limit has passed. If you look at the ordinance, the BZA or board shall render a decision on all applications for special permits and special exceptions respectively, no later than 90 or 120 days respectively, following the first meeting at which the application was on the agenda. So if this was on at the March meeting, and we're in June, April, May, and June, we're at 90 days now, approximately, we would be at 120 days before we would hold our own public hearing. And then refer it up to the board, would add another 30 to 60 days onto that. So that's my concern. And the board has sent down, or has voted against, as we know, special exceptions in the past that have gone over those time limits. They have used those to reject special exceptions. So that's of great concern to me. I would not want to take an outdated request up to the Board of Supervisors.
Am I right in saying that it seems there are two missing entities at the moment? One is the Department of Transportation okay on the entrance and access, and the other is the engineering document for the contractor's yard itself.
And I would say 3 is a completed statement of justification, all in one spot with these things we've asked for. What are the businesses? We have a number of employees, but equipment, because we've got the area of storage, just the specifics of the use.
Okay, and that really doesn't need to be certified by anybody.
That is not.
So the two certifications, it would seem nice to expedite and get this done, particularly as time is of the essence for the application, or to do something to deal with that. It seems that a significant amount of effort has been put into getting this information together, and it seems to be nearly there.
Any other thoughts? Do I have a motion to do anything with this application this evening? And with that, I would make a motion that we indefinitely table this application.
Would that be subject to another application effort, if the time limit is overstepped?
I mean, I've read the time limit for this application. I don't see how it can possibly meet the time limits that are in the zoning ordinance.
I understand that. That's what we're
And
dealing with.
there are still, I mean, I don't know that we have many more questions than where we started in March.
I second that motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So, I'm sorry, that was 5-0 in favor of your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a comprehensive plan update. Does anyone have any additions for the update?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you have any additions on the contract?
I will have some, I do not have them to see.
I believe the chairman had asked, I didn't receive a follow-up, he asked me on the 26th if you can submit any changes that you have or additions to the comprehensive plan so that we can schedule a work session. And then that brings us to the list of direction for zoning ordinance amendments from the Board of Supervisors, and I believe that's just a review item on the agenda every month.
This is,
No, please go ahead, Ms. Summers.
I added this agenda item so we can keep track. And as a friendly reminder each month of the pending ordinance changes that this commission does need to address. I keep it updated from month to month, not that it changes for now, but this is just a list that we'll just keep carrying over to serve as a reminder. And basically a to-do list for the commissioners.
Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other thoughts on that? Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. And second, all in favor? Aye.